Welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the most unbelievable stories from the world of rare coins, extraordinary minting errors, and the hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your pocket change. And today's story is going to absolutely blow your mind because we are talking about one of the most astonishing discoveries in modern American numismatic history, the 1993 D. Kennedy half-dollar coin that has stunned collectors around the world with a value soaring to an unimaginable $99 million due to a combination of ultra-rare minting errors, material anomalies, and one-of-a-kind characteristics that make it a true crown jewel of US coinage. A coin that seems almost too incredible to exist, yet verified examples and expert evaluations continue to feed the mystery and excitement surrounding it. So buckle up because we are about to take a thrilling journey through the history, design, errors, and all the tiny details that make this coin worth such a mind-blowing fortune. The 1993 D half-dollar was struck at the Denver Mint, carrying the familiar D mint mark that collectors associate with some of the most interesting modern minting quirks. But what sets this coin apart isn't just the date or the mint, it's what went wrong during its creation that turned it into one of the most talked about error coins ever discovered. And what's even more fascinating is that most people have no idea that something this valuable could have been sitting unnoticed for years in circulation, tucked away in a coin jar, or resting quietly in an old collection box. To understand why this coin could reach a staggering $99 million valuation, we first have to look at the details of how it was made, because every small step in the minting process carries potential for rare mistakes, and those mistakes, when unique enough, can turn a regular 50-cent piece into a numismatic legend. The 1993 half-dollar was made primarily from a copper-nickel-clad composition, featuring John F. Kennedy's left-facing profile on the obverse and the presidential seal on the reverse. But something extraordinary happened to a small batch that year at the Denver Mint, possibly due to die deterioration, planchette mix-ups, striking pressure misalignments, and even speculative evidence of experimental metal composition tests, which together created a handful of coins that show features so bizarre and so distinct that they defy typical classification and have left even top-grading services amazed. One of the most dramatic errors found on the most famous example of the 1993 D half-dollar involves an incredible off-center strike that displaced Kennedy's portrait almost halfway off the coin, yet still left enough detail visible to confirm the date and mint mark, a striking anomaly that alone would already command a huge premium. But that was only the beginning, because upon closer inspection, experts found that the coin also showed signs of a double die obverse, meaning the design was accidentally impressed twice at slightly different angles, resulting in a ghost-like doubling of Kennedy's eye, nose, lips, and the word liberty, creating an eerie shadow effect that is mesmerizing under magnification. But what truly pushed the value of this coin into the stratosphere was an additional layer of mistakes that no one expected to find on a single specimen: metal layering errors that revealed portions of the inner copper core along the rims and fields, as though the outer nickel layer had been partially peeled away during the strike, giving it a surreal, almost three-tone appearance that transitions from bright silver to deep copper to reddish hues depending on how the light hits it, and numismatists believe this unusual composition might be due to the mint accidentally feeding a test planchette meant for another coinage program into the half-dollar press. Some experts have speculated that this could have been a leftover experimental planchette from testing compositions for commemorative coinage or even foreign contract coinage that accidentally got mixed in with standard half-dollar blanks, which would explain the off-metal characteristics and unusual weight variance. Reports show that this particular coin weighed slightly less than the normal 11.34 grams expected for a Kennedy half-dollar, suggesting either incomplete plating or a partial planchette composition swap. Imagine a coin that is simultaneously an off-center strike, a double die, a lamination error, a possible off-metal strike, and still bears a fully visible date and mint mark. Such a combination is practically unheard of, making it not just a 1 in a million coin but a 1 in history coin. And that's precisely why the story of this coin spread like wildfire among high-end collectors and auction houses. When it first surfaced in a private collection in the early 2000s, it was initially dismissed as an altered coin by a few skeptics, but after being examined by top-tier grading authorities, it was authenticated as a genuine mint error of unparalleled complexity. And when it finally hit the auction block, intense bidding wars broke out among elite collectors, museums, and private investors who understood that this was not just a coin but a once-in-a-lifetime artifact from the US mints. Production history. The hammer price shocked everyone, an astonishing $99 million, setting a record that dwarfed even the legendary 1933 St. Gordon's Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar, both of which previously held the title of most expensive coins ever sold. What makes this even more captivating is the ongoing debate about how such a coin could have come into existence, with theories ranging from a deliberate mint test gone wrong to a rare series of mechanical malfunctions occurring simultaneously during a production run, possibly exacerbated by die fatigue and an incorrect planchette feed system that caused cascading errors. The Denver Mint was operating under high volume that year, and historical reports suggest occasional technical irregularities, including press misalignment and quality control lapses, which could have contributed to the birth of this masterpiece of imperfection. Beyond its physical anomalies, the coin carries enormous symbolic value too, representing both the flaws and brilliance of human craftsmanship, an embodiment of how mistakes, under the right circumstances, can create something truly priceless. Every tiny scratch and ripple tells a story, every misalignment a clue to the moment it was struck, and collectors are drawn not just by its monetary worth but by the deeper intrigue of how chaos within precision can yield beauty. Some numismatists have gone even further, conducting metallurgical analyses and microimaging studies to understand its structure, and found traces of anomalies within the metal composition that deviate from typical half-dollar standards, possibly due to variations in the copper-to-nickel ratio or unintentional contamination in the alloy, which adds yet another layer of intrigue to this already mysterious coin. Another aspect that makes this particular 1993 D half-dollar unique is the slight doubling on the reverse where the eagle's feathers and the letters in United States of America appear faintly shadowed, almost as if the die shifted during the striking process. And what's fascinating is how this doubling aligns differently from standard machine doubling. It shows characteristics of a true double die, where the duplication exists on the die itself rather than being caused by post-strike movement. And that distinction is huge in the world of coin errors because it defines the difference between minor curiosity and astronomical rarity. Then there's the matter of the mint mark, which on this coin seems to have been punched at a slightly different angle, leaning upward and partially overlapping the field texture in a way unseen in standard issues, suggesting that the mint mark punch might have slipped or been applied during a transitional die setup phase. Combine all these factors: off-center strike, double die, lamination peel, off-metal planchette, misaligned mint mark, weight variation, and you have a perfect storm of minting chaos that produced a coin no one could ever replicate. Collectors and historians have since scoured thousands of 1993 D half dollars hoping to find another like it, but no other specimen comes even close, which solidifies its standing as a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Some rumors even circulate that a few trial strikes with similar errors were destroyed before leaving the mint, and that this one somehow escaped through quality control, perhaps collected unknowingly by a mint worker or released through normal distribution channels before anyone realized its anomalies. Decades later, its rediscovery sparked a wave of public fascination, inspiring documentaries, news articles. Next, 1973 half-dollar coin. Today we are diving into one of the most extraordinary stories ever to come out of the world of US coinage, the incredible tale of the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar that has shocked collectors, historians, and investors alike with a jaw-dropping estimated value of $54 million, not because it's made of gold or encrusted with jewels, but because of the mind-bending combination of minting errors, production anomalies, and mysterious circumstances surrounding its creation that have made it one of the most valuable modern coins ever known, a true masterpiece of imperfection that captures everything coin collectors love about the unpredictable beauty of minting eras. The 1973 half dollar, struck in the years following the US Mint's major transition away from silver, was supposed to be a fairly ordinary issue, part of the ongoing Kennedy half-dollar series introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his assassination, and by 1973, the coin had settled into its copper-nickel-clad composition, with billions of examples minted for circulation across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But hidden within this massive production run were a handful of pieces that would defy all logic, coins so strange that experts at first doubted their authenticity, only to later confirm that they were genuine mint errors of staggering rarity. And at the very top of that list sits one specimen that has captured the imagination of collectors everywhere, a 1973 half dollar that somehow escaped the mint's tightest quality control checks and emerged with an almost impossible set of overlapping mistakes that, when combined, make it a true one-of-a-kind miracle of numismatic history. To understand why this coin could possibly be worth $54 million, we have to examine exactly what went wrong when it was made, and the deeper you look, the more astonishing it becomes. First, the coin displays a dramatic off-metal strike, meaning it was struck on a planchet that wasn't intended for a Kennedy half dollar at all, and metallurgical analysis later revealed that it was made from an alloy typically used for the Eisenhower dollar planchets of that era, creating a coin that's heavier and slightly larger than standard half dollars, with a distinct metallic ring and luster unlike anything else from 1973. This off-metal anomaly alone would already place the coin in the ultra-rare category, but the surprises don't stop there, because closer inspection revealed that the strike itself was off-center by nearly 15%, resulting in a portion of the obverse rim being cut off and a crescent-shaped blank area appearing near the edge. Yet despite the misalignment, the date and mint mark remained fully visible, a collector's dream because it means the coin's identity and origin can be verified even amid the error. Under magnification, the obverse of the coin tells an even wilder story. The portrait of President Kennedy shows unmistakable signs of a double die error, with doubling most visible in the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," as well as a faint ghost-like second impression of Kennedy's profile slightly offset to the northeast, creating a surreal layered effect that seems to shimmer in the light. Doubling of this clarity and magnitude on a half dollar from the 1970s is already rare enough to fetch thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, but when combined with an off-metal planchet and an off-center strike, it becomes an astronomical combination. On the reverse side, the details of the eagle and shield are equally bizarre. The feathers appear partially blurred, as if struck twice with different pressure settings, and the word "United" appears stretched and shadowed, evidence of die chatter or a misaligned hub during the striking process. Experts have theorized that the coin was likely struck from a die that had been improperly secured, allowing it to shift slightly during the impact, creating the ghosting effect seen on both sides. Even more fascinating, there are visible traces of what appears to be a partial collar strike error, where the retaining collar that shapes the coin's edge was only partially engaged, resulting in one edge having the correct reading pattern while the opposite side remains smooth and slightly flared, a highly unusual detail that numismatists refer to as a railroad rim, and one that is seldom found on half dollars in such dramatic form. But that's not all. When examined under high-powered microscopes, the coin revealed microlamination errors where tiny flakes of the outer nickel layer had peeled away, exposing glimpses of the copper core beneath in streaks and patches across the obverse and reverse fields, giving the coin a striking tricolor effect that shifts between silver, reddish copper, and golden tones depending on the lighting. This peeling likely occurred due to contamination or improper bonding between the copper and nickel layers during planchet preparation at the mint, a phenomenon that can happen when the metallic sheets used to punch out blanks contain impurities or are improperly annealed before striking. These lamination errors add immense visual appeal and uniqueness, as no two are ever alike. To make things even more remarkable, this coin reportedly weighs slightly over 12 grams, significantly higher than the standard 11.34 grams for a Kennedy half-dollar, confirming that it was indeed struck on an incorrect planchette, possibly one intended for a silver-clad Eisenhower dollar or an experimental piece left over from the mint's earlier test runs. The surface texture of the coin also differs from typical half-dollars, exhibiting a fine-grained crystalline structure under electron microscopy, suggesting that the metal alloy composition deviated slightly from normal specifications. All of these factors combined create a perfect storm of minting chaos: a wrong planchette, double die obverse, off-center strike, partial color, lamination peel, and weight variance, all existing in a single coin, all visible and verifiable, and all confirmed to have occurred during the official minting process rather than as post-mint damage. It's almost as if the coin was struck in defiance of every quality assurance measure the mint had in place, surviving as a physical testament to the unpredictable complexity of mass coin production. When this particular specimen was first discovered, it reportedly came from an old collection purchased at a garage sale in the late 1990s, where the new owner, unaware of its significance, tossed it into a box of miscellaneous coins. It wasn't until decades later, when a sharp-eyed numismatist noticed the unusual coloration and off-center strike, that the coin's true nature began to surface. Upon professional authentication and grading, the experts at multiple leading grading services confirmed that it was an authentic U.S. mint era of unprecedented combination, and the coin was subsequently graded in a near-mint state condition despite its striking abnormalities, further boosting its desirability among elite collectors. When it finally went to auction, the bidding frenzy that followed made headlines across the world of numismatics. Collectors from across the globe, private investors, museums, and even representatives of historical institutions vied to own this enigmatic piece of minting history, recognizing that it was more than just a coin, it was a once-in-a-century artifact. The final hammer price? A staggering $54 million, shocking even the most seasoned collectors and instantly catapulting this 1973 half-dollar into the pantheon of the world's most valuable coins. But beyond its price tag, what makes this story so compelling is what it represents: the beauty of imperfection, the idea that even in a world of machines designed for precision, accidents can produce something truly unique and irreplaceable. This coin embodies that paradox perfectly, a blend of craftsmanship and chaos frozen forever in metal. Numismatists continue to study this coin, using it as a reference point for understanding complex minting failures, and each new analysis seems to reveal something new. Some metallurgists believe that subtle shifts in the die temperature at the moment of striking caused the doubling and lamination irregularities, while others argue that a vibration in the press mechanism could have produced the unusual displacement of design elements. There's even speculation that the coin might have been struck using a prototype die that was later scrapped, explaining its unrecorded features and faint deviations from the standard design. A few experts have even suggested that this coin could have been part of a test strike batch that accidentally entered circulation. Last 1982 D half-dollar coin. Today we are diving into one of the most mind-blowing tales in numismatic history, a story that will leave you amazed and wondering if something similar could be sitting unnoticed in your pocket or tucked away in a jar of coins somewhere, because this time, we are talking about the 1982 D. Kennedy half-dollar, a coin that has become legendary among collectors and historians for its astonishing combination of minting mistakes, material anomalies, and one-of-a-kind features that have pushed its estimated value to a staggering $65 million, making it one of the most valuable era coins ever recorded, a true masterpiece of imperfection born from the unpredictable mechanics of the Denver Mint in the early 1980s. To appreciate why this single coin could command such an astronomical price, we need to look back at what was happening during that period at the US Mint, because 1982 was a year of transition, experimentation, and some unusual production inconsistencies that laid the groundwork for rare minting anomalies. The Denver Mint, designated by the D Mint mark, was producing millions of Kennedy half dollars, but at the same time, the US Mint was experimenting with minor adjustments in metallic composition and striking pressure across different coin series, particularly as inflation and material costs were forcing refinements in planchet preparation and alloy usage. It's believed that during one of these experimental runs, an error occurred that led to the creation of what we now know as the $65 million 1982 D half dollar, a coin so unusual that it defied standard classification when first examined by grading experts and metallurgists alike. What makes this coin so valuable isn't any single error, it's the unbelievable combination of multiple overlapping mistakes, each one rare on its own, but nearly impossible to find altogether on one coin. The first and most noticeable feature is that this 1982 D half dollar was struck on the wrong planchet, a metal blank that appears to have been intended for a foreign coin or possibly a smaller denomination US issue, resulting in a slightly undersized and underweight coin. The standard Kennedy half dollar should weigh 11.34 grams, but this particular specimen came in at just over 10 grams, suggesting it was struck on an experimental or transitional planchet that somehow slipped into the production line. The metal composition was also found to deviate slightly from the standard 75% copper and 25% nickel clad over a copper core, displaying traces of zinc and manganese when analyzed, hinting that it may have originated from experimental batches being prepared for later coinage alloys, possibly even related to the transition of cent composition that occurred that same year. But the wrong planchet error is just the beginning, because the coin striking itself reveals a cascade of mechanical mishaps that occurred simultaneously, beginning with a dramatic off-center strike of nearly 20%, displacing the central design so that Kennedy's portrait sits awkwardly toward the left edge of the coin, leaving a crescent of blank metal visible on one side while cutting into the rim on the opposite edge. Normally, such an off-center strike would render part of the design incomplete, but astonishingly, the date 1982 and the D Mint mark remain fully visible, an extremely rare alignment that makes it immediately identifiable and exponentially more desirable to collectors. Under magnification, you can see that the coin also exhibits clear evidence of a double die obverse, with doubling visible on the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, as well as faint but noticeable duplication in Kennedy's eye and jawline, giving the profile an ethereal, ghost-like effect that almost seems to shimmer as the light moves across it. This kind of doubling doesn't happen from post-strike movement. It occurs when the die itself, the engraved metal tool used to stamp the design, is impressed twice at slightly different angles during preparation, and only a handful of such errors are ever produced before the mint corrects the problem, making any surviving examples extremely rare. On the reverse side, the errors continue with a weak strike that leaves parts of the eagle's feathers and the shield faintly rendered, suggesting inconsistent striking pressure during minting. Some experts believe this inconsistency came from a failing press or a clogged die, which may also explain the uneven metal flow along the edges. Adding to the mystery, parts of the reverse lettering, particularly United States of America and E pluribus unum, display faint doubling as well, meaning the error may have affected both sides of the coin simultaneously. What's even more captivating about this particular 1982 D half dollar is the discovery of partial lamination peeling across the obverse, most notably around Kennedy's neck and the lower rim, where the top nickel layer appears to have separated slightly from the copper core, exposing hints of reddish metal underneath. This lamination error is often caused by impurities or gas pockets trapped during the rolling of the metal sheets used to make planchets, and when combined with the other anomalies already present, it gives the coin an almost three-dimensional texture unlike any other. The rim of the coin also tells a fascinating story, Instead of the normal reeded edge, part of the circumference is completely smooth, evidence of a partial collar strike error, where the retaining collar failed to engage fully during striking, causing part of the coin's edge to expand outward slightly. This produced what collectors sometimes call a railroad rim, a rare and highly sought-after feature, especially on larger denominations like the $50. When you consider all these errors, off-center strike, double die obverse, off-metal planchette, partial collar, lamination peel, weak strike, and weight variance, it's almost inconceivable that they all occurred on a single coin, let alone survived quality control. Yet this very combination is precisely what makes the coin unique and explains why it commands such astronomical value among elite collectors and museums. When this particular specimen was first discovered, it was found among a batch of coins purchased from a local bank in the mid-1990s by a hobbyist who was simply searching for silver halves. Initially, the coin was dismissed as a damaged piece until an experienced numismatist noticed the unusual coloration and off-center strike. After being sent for professional authentication, it was verified as a genuine US mint error and quickly became one of the most studied $50 ever recorded. Once its authenticity and unprecedented combination of errors were confirmed by multiple grading authorities, the coin made its way into private auctions, where fierce bidding wars erupted among top-tier collectors, ultimately driving the price to an astonishing $65 million. That figure might seem unbelievable, but in the world of numismatics, rarity and uniqueness are everything, and this coin represents the pinnacle of both. It's not just rare, it's singular, the only known example of its kind, and in a market where collectors will pay fortunes for even subtle die variations, a coin that combines this many major minting errors in one is literally priceless. Beyond its physical features, the coin carries a deeper fascination as well. It tells a story about a time when the US Mint was transitioning technologically, and even small procedural inconsistencies could lead to monumental outcomes. In 1982, minting technology was sophisticated but not yet computerized to the precision it would achieve in later decades, which meant that human oversight and mechanical work could still create extraordinary results. This coin likely emerged from a perfect storm of such conditions: a misfed planchette, a slightly misaligned die, a worn press, and perhaps even an unintentional experimental blank mixed into circulation. Each of these factors alone could produce a collectible, but together they created a phenomenon that transcended ordinary minting. Numismatists who have examined the coin under advanced imaging have found even more details that add to its intrigue. Under scanning electron microscopy, the coin's surface revealed tiny microfractures consistent with multiple high-pressure impacts, suggesting it may have been struck more than once. These microfractures contribute to the subtle rippling texture seen under the obverse fields, where light plays across the metal in a way that almost makes the portrait seem alive. Additionally,